Thanks for having me here today. Actually, this is one of the very few occasions I've actually got to come and listen to other people speak before I do, which is the worst thing I've ever done because it made me rethink a whole bunch of things I wrote down, and I never write down notes anyway, so it's going to be a little difficult, but I'm going to try and speed through and get through some of the topics, but I just had a wonderful conversation with a counterpart from NARA, which made me think of 60 different things I should have written down instead. When we're talking about CBP AI, so again, Joshua Powell, Chief Innovation Officer at CBP. There we go. Sorry, I move, I talk, I don't like to stand too perfectly still. What have we done with AI at CBP? Quite a bit, actually. We maintain over 50% of the DHS AI inventory at Customs and Border Protection. We've been doing artificial intelligence for over a decade now. Right now, when everybody says the word AI, what they mean is generative AI. They mean LLMs, but we're talking about the use of computer vision. We're talking about the use of machine learning. We're talking about the use of natural language processing to enforce the CBP mission and to help us get ahead and more efficient. We've been trying to build this concept of efficiency for years to get ahead of the mission we have at our hands. We have over 2,000 miles of border to protect on the southern border, 3,000 on the northern border, all the coastal borders of the United States, protection of lawful trade and travel of everything coming into the United States of America. What have we done with AI to date? Quite a bit. So from a computer vision perspective, we have thousands of cameras in remote, austere locations along the southern and northern border. Those camera feeds go back to Border Patrol stations or ports of entry, and we have agents and officers looking at dozens and in some cases up to 50 to 70 different camera feeds coming into a single location. That gets monotonous. That gets hard. A single person staring at the same camera over days on end is something you can't keep that going. So bringing computer vision into that also helps us to say, hey, I'm just going to help you find the things you're looking for. But the conversation I was having earlier also led me back to the concept that even computer vision led to some cultural changes within an organization because there was a lot of mistrust of just implementing a box that said, hey, this is probably the shape of a person. Like, it's not telling you who the person is. It's not saying that's Josh Powell. It's saying I've been trained to detect the shape of a human, and I'm going to put a polygon around that. I'm going to put a confidence interval that says this is a human. There was a lot of mistrust in that because they didn't want to give up something agents were inherently good at doing. They were making these detections. They knew where to look. They knew how to look. And then we saw the same with successive tools that we started to put out. Everybody in here, I'm assuming, travels within the United States and then potentially travels internationally. We use a system called Traveler Verification Service. TVS is what we use when you come into the United States, and it does a photo match against your passport, you against the manifest, and it helps us to determine who's coming into the United States. Recently, we've started testing out and deploying a system called Seamless Border Entry for any global entry users here, which allows us to do detection on the move and allow people to just walk through customs without being stopped unless directed by an officer at the port of entry if it makes a detection within the global entry image set. Beyond global entry, lately, now going from what I think are things we often forget about in the AI world over to the generative AI side, everything's going to have an LLM in it at some point in time. I think to your point a moment ago, everything has AI. I think we're getting into the point now where we're starting to implement LLMs into a lot of existing systems and creating those efficiencies by just summarizing documents, by producing efficiencies where people would come into a workflow in the morning that may have 100 entries that they needed to go and comb through. Now they can summarize that document, ask questions of the document, bring out key information, and go ahead and start their daily workflow faster and more efficiently and move forward on it. But the things I like the most are the things that take away those monotonous things that my DISA counterpart was talking about when I walked in earlier. There's all these things that even in the government and then in industry, we all share commonality and problems. One of the problems we have is the hiring process, and that's the creation of a position description document at CBP. Every other government agency does it. You create a position description, you have to classify that position, you have to get it approved, then you can announce it to fill the job. We created a PD large language model. What used to happen was the hiring office would take 2 to 3 days to draft up a thing that's not within their wheelhouse. It's not a thing they do every day, but they have to come up with this document. They hand it over to your HR resource specialist who helps you start the classification. Then there's weeks of back and forth. we've now turned that into a form. So instead of writing the entire thing and hoping you got it right, you now create a 2-page entry on a form. You submit the form into our LLM. It comes back, you start having your back and forth, and then the classifier can actually finalize that and get the questions they really need. We've seen a 50% reduction in time it takes to actually complete these documents. And going from 16 to 24 hours for document creation early down to about, they said 2 to 3 hours we're seeing for the early creation of that first document. So we're seeing a tremendous amount of efficiency gains from the introduction of the LLMs. But the one thing each of these systems have in common that I talked about was that we're taking accountability seriously. Because a comment you hit on was not over-trusting the AI, but still knowing that it's there. The one thing we're telling everyone is that AI is not a substitute for individual expertise, sound judgment, professional conduct, or the inherent responsibilities entrusted into each person within the government itself. Every message I've sent out releasing any product across Customs and Border Protection has had those words in it, because I firmly believe that AI is an assistance to our jobs. It's not a replacement for us within our jobs, but we need to find ways to leverage it to just be more efficient in our day-to-day, so we don't get bogged down in the smaller things that we're doing, but we really focus into the things we need to be focusing on as humans. One last thing I want to dive into, because I think I have almost no time. Quickly, everybody in here, is anybody in here from private sector representing a company or a vendor, or is this all government mostly? It's only a couple private sector folks? All right, quick message to anybody private sector. I take more pitch meetings than anybody on the Shark Tank on a weekly basis. My entire job these days has been pitch meetings. If you are an agentic AI or agentic AI adjacent company, I have a couple quick tips I would like to provide to you. I think anybody in here who takes pitch meetings can commiserate. One, the first thing I get told in an agentic AI pitch meeting is they tell me the company that they're like, and then they tell me why they don't do the negative things that company does. So bad way to describe yourself. Two, you then show me the exact same slide deck I've seen 50 times with a different logo and a different company bio page on it. The only difference is who went to Stanford, who went to MIT. Then I have no idea, because it's all the same architecture drawings on every one of these slide decks. So here's my advice. Please take it if you're going to do a presentation to government employees. One, give us a use case that you're doing and you're presenting. Make this real. AI is the first thing that is taking software into the tangible world, where we can feel the repercussions of the decisions made within AI. Start treating it like you're selling hardware. Sell me something, don't sell me a cure-all. Because I can tell you 100 times, everybody said, hey, you give me all your data, I can fix all the things and do all the things. None of that's an idea. All that is just a grand scale thought. There are over 5,000 AI startups last year with significant investment across the venture capital and private equity community in America. 90% of all startups fail. So I'm going to get pitch meetings from a ton of companies, and I need to be reserved because I don't even know which ones are going to succeed or survive. So we do need to have, as government, we need to be reticent in how we're looking at things. And if I can't tell a product apart from the last slide deck I just looked at, I don't really understand what I'm looking at. So last advice I'll give, demo a use case and make it relevant. And if it's relevant to you inside your organization, because we do share commonality in our administrative tasks and the duties we do on day-to-day, it'll probably be relevant to me. So show us something, show what it is, look at your AI like it's hardware. Don't just look at it like it's a PowerPoint or architecture, and you're gonna get further along, I promise. So thank you for your time.